Good morning. We are back live this morning. Welcome to the show. Let's look at this, ladies and gentlemen. For the show where we say the things to help dispel inferiority, regain our confidence in our authority. We want to open up all eyes wide shut in this time because we in a time where we have to really pay attention to detail. We want to give it to you in a raw, unfiltered, uncut. For mental health, for black wealth, we dismantle indoctrination by having all the hard conversations. And then at this time, we having hard conversations today. Some topics we may dispute, except the ones we should refute. Let's continue to get our dollars back in our community. Shouldn't have to say black dollars; they green, but or crypto.
But we spend
it. But we spend it. Whether it be green or crypto, gold or silver, we spend it, and we need to get it back in our hands and back in our community, because it's very pertinent and definite that we do that, and we understand what the meaning behind that, and understand where we go from there, because we'll say that again, time will wait on no one. We'll look up and
absolutely
20 years of being flown past, and it's that shoulda, coulda, woulda, why didn't I, shoulda did it this way. The old song, what's the old song, Minister P? I did it my way.
Oh yeah.
We gonna have to start doing it our way, or it won't be no way. So we got to get things in order and get things moving in a proper direction. Let's get things started here.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say
go ahead, Minister.
good morning to all of our brothers and sisters, all of our listeners and viewers, all of our supporters in the cause. This is a great day. Perk it up. Wake up, wake up.
Yeah, wake up. We start off with our point of code of ethics, code of conduct, what we should be paying attention to and doing all the time. 1, speak politely. 2, pay fairly for what you buy. 3, return everything you borrow. 4, pay for everything you damage. 5, do not swear at people if you don't have to. 6, do not take liberties with women if you don't have to. 7, do not damage property or crops. Or 4, oppress the poor masses. And 8, if you have to take someone captive, do not ill treat them. And of course, that's an extension of if you capture someone, of course, you have to remove all points of weaponry that they may have upon them. So you don't let them keep what they have upon them that they came to attack you with. Go ahead, Minister P.
Absolutely. Well, our 5 ethical codes are as follows. First, number 1, have integrity. You got to have integrity. And number 2, unity. Unity is a key in growth. Number 3, objectivity. Listen, brothers and sisters, have a vision. Know where you're going to. Number 4, confidentiality. What I tell you stays with you. What you tell me stays with me. Let's not be gossipers. And the 5th and final ethical code that we must operate in is growth, personal growth. Whether you are a woman or a man, father, brother, sister, mother, have personal growth. That's it.
That personal growth, gotta have that personal growth, which equals to your personal your wealth, as we said on the platform before. Let's start throwing that in there, because wealth is your health is your wealth. That if your wealth is not intact, surely your health would be upon attack. I
And
think,
slack.
yeah, right. You know, we send a lot of those ailments um, that we made that takes part in our community. I think that leads to the lack of wealth in our community, because it's the headaches that we have to deal with to try to dig ourselves out of those trenches of debt, as they call it. That it's not saying debt is bad, because you can, you know, when you start, and that's a whole nother platform as far as economics, but you know, the rich uses debt to get wealth, to get wealthy. You know, of course, there's strategies in that, but they use debt to get wealthy. So, like I say, those are other platforms that we have to start paying attention to, and we'll start having those talks and strategy sessions to see how that is obtained. But in any case, you know, as you see our topic, here we are again, back at the table playing Monopoly in America. And you know, that game can get a little competitive and challenging at times. You know, I've always loved to play Monopoly, Mr. P, as a child. That was one of my favorite games.
Yes.
One of my favorite games now, because it led to say, oh, I'm looking to gain some money and be number one at
That's
playing
it.
that game.
That was the goal.
Right, being number one. If you can't win in Monopoly, you, of course, that was one of those. Coming in second wouldn't do it. Coming in third wouldn't do it. You had to be number one to have the bragging rights. And that's what we're in, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a real life Monopoly game. You know, whether anyone wants to refute that and say that we are not, you show me how we are not in a real life Monopoly game. You know, so many situations going on. There was a gentleman on who has another platform, mentioned his last name, Mr. Nasheed. He paid attention to, which something that really kind of struck a chord with me. And I've been hearing kind of some things going back and forth. There's a situation going on in Mason, Tennessee, which is on my mother's side. We have land maybe 30 minutes from there. So in Mason, Tennessee, just to give you a little background history on Mason, Tennessee, the town itself is been dominantly controlled by blacks for the last 150 years or more. So of course, all the political points, all the and from there down, you know, it's controlled by blacks. I think the population is close to 2,000, but the town has been in a position to where they've been able to sustain a mass of, you know, their finances and things of that nature. But in the media, they have pointed out that this town has not, you know, 2,000 people in the street, and they saying this town has not been able to maintain financially, saying that the financial up until this point. Now, what year are we in? 2022, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, the comptroller and the governor has stated that their finances have been misappropriated. They've been using the funds ill-advised. And I said, well, it takes 153 years is what the article is reporting, that they have misappropriated funds in that many. So you mean to tell me I'm gonna wait that long? So, we finally seen you guys. A town that probably up until now got close to 2,000 people living in it. Oh, you guys are misappropriating funds. But here's the bigger picture of it. Ford company, dealership, or the Ford company, I shouldn't say dealership, but Ford company is, they're looking to build a EV plant there, meaning the electrical vehicle plant.
Okay.
And of course, doing that, you know, what is that going to bring, Minister B, if they do that?
Well, economic.
There you
It's
go.
Bring money. It's
It's
going
gonna
to bring money
money
and jobs.
and jobs. And so all of a sudden, they want Mason, Tennessee to dissolve their charter. The comptroller has confronted the community and confronted the public there and gathered the people in the storehouse, which is the church, to say, hey, you need to dissolve your because of this, that, and the third. And they said, well, we have no records of misappropriated funds here. Nobody doing any ill will amongst the people. I mean, if that be the case, we would have said so many years ago. So I say that is a prime example of what we talk about is when you're looking at white supremacy. That's prime example, really prime example, because it's like all of a sudden now Ford is looking to bring jobs and money here. All of a sudden somebody the government wants to take over. The governor more or less wants to take over now. And the U.S. may even get involved, more or less the federal government possibly will get involved. But I mean, Ford may prevail as far as that they have the money to, go back and forth, or just all of a sudden just say, well, we're not even going to put it there. So, that would take away jobs and economic, that'll be an economic disparity to the people there for for the most part. It would take them out of the position of being able to afford to better themselves. And I say that because I'm making the connection because the family land that we have is 30 minutes from there. That's 30-minute drive is really it's not that's not a long drive. That's not a long
Not at
drive.
all. That's miles. It's
Yeah,
simply
that's
miles.
some simple miles. So that would have had an effect on a radius. It would say 20 or more miles. We'll say 20 miles out radius having a major effect if that is not paid attention to. So my job and my homework assignment, of course, that I'm already on with the land that my family have. There's been some challenges there with the family, but I don't want to. In my thought, I don't want that situation in Mason to have an effect because what's happening with my family land is that they're building all around the land, big homes, and so the land in itself is unincorporated. And so I told my cousin, I said, well, it's just a matter of time before the surrounding incorporated little town come into play to actually smother you guys out, and they'll end up taking the land on some technicality.
Yeah, we'll try that.
And then that can be connected to this Mason, which is again 30 minutes away.
Yeah, so Dr. Hill, let me say this. Number one, that Mason in Mason, Tennessee, that town, it has a mayor, correct?
Correct.
And the mayor is black, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that mayor has to get on his game because he can see what's coming up. We see that this is reminiscent of a Tulsa, Oklahoma, a Rosewood, Florida, because what's happening there now with this EV coming in there, there's going to be economic stability and economic growth, and it's going to be a surge. And the same thing played out with Tulsa and Rosewood. And so the opposing forces, or the system that opposes that, does not want that to happen. So they're going to come in and try any and everything and every tactic that they can. Now, listen, here's the thing. Injustice anywhere affects justice everywhere. So it's going to affect Mason, Tennessee. It's going to cross on over into your area over there, because greed does this. It grows and it expands. Greed grows and it expands. And so that mayor better get on top of it, get the government involved in its political systems, and get an understanding of what's going on. Learn those rules.
While you're speaking, Minister, here's the website. Where my family land resides is roughly Bartlett, which is again a Bartlett area, again, which is 30 minutes from Mason. And here is the board. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can see with viewing, this is a website, and even though we live outside of this community, doesn't that again, like I said, it makes an effect everywhere. That's just a pinpoint to say, hey, we'll start small here and then go into a major city and do the same thing. So we have to pay close attention. I just kind of want to hear what the video, if you, Minister, we'll take a brief intermission into see what they insert here is a little for 2 minutes. I'm just curious to see what was said. I listened to the soundbite briefly, but I didn't listen to the whole thing. But I know that's one of the things that is at hand there. So we'll listen real quick now. Let's see if it'll play for us. Watch video. They may have edited. Oh, here we go. Can you hear that, Minister P?
No, no sound is coming through.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Wait a minute.
That's why. Yeah.
Elected officials indicted by the state for fraud and waste and abuse. Well, this week, the Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasury made a rare stop in Mason, urging town leaders to just give up Mason's charter. WRG's Alex Coleman tells us why and what it could mean for the town.
I think certainly it was somewhat unique to see the comptroller in their town, but it also, I think, sent a message that this was a very serious situation.
John Dunn is Director of Communications with the Tennessee Comptroller's Office. He says a rare appearance Tuesday by State Comptroller Jason Mumpower was meant to be a wake-up call for the town of Mason, Tennessee.
The town of Mason has had mismanagement and financial trouble for many years now.
The state is urging Mason's elected officials to relinquish the town's charter, unincorporate, and be folded into Tipton County government. The other option is for the state to take over.
The comptroller's office would have the final say on every expenditure that is made within the town of Mason. And that is a difficult place to be. It's something that we don't do very often.
The prospect of giving up Mason's charter has stirred emotions at City Hall.
Because we know that we can and we will fight for our charter.
Vice Mayor Virginia Rivers questions the timing of the Comptroller's visit, saying the state is getting serious now because Mason sits so close to where Ford's Blue Oval City will be built.
Main concern is that they allowed this to go on for so many years. And now that the mega site is coming, it seems like it's a problem, and it's a big problem.
The state comptroller's office admitting Mason's history of mismanagement presents a negative image.
Opportunity will pass it by because outside companies, outside groups aren't going to want to invest in a community where they know there's the history of mismanagement.
We inherited what had already happened. We came in trying to fix it. And without the help of anyone, we have struggled, and yes, we have made progress.
Alex Coleman, WREG-TV, News Channel 3.
At this point, Vice Mayor Rivers says the current administration is working to pay bills on time, but admits the community did take a huge economic hit when the West Tennessee detention facility closed last year. You know,
that wasn't done intentionally, Minister P. Then I don't know what was, because it seems this little, back and forth going on. Now all of a sudden, Ford is coming. Now they want to change their tune about, well, this shouldn't be in the control of them. But so if they've inherited mismanagement and then they're trying to fix it, what is the problem? If they're having no disruption of moving in a positive direction, all of a sudden now Ford is coming. Now we got to change our tune and say, oh, hey, things have changed now. We need to take over because we see an economic boom coming. And so we need to be in control. So, go ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're saying. That's what the system is saying. The white collars are stepping in now because they see some economic boom coming down the pike. But here's the thing. This is the first time I've seen this. So I do have a question. The previous administration, obviously, as it related to what the lady was saying, the previous administration was having difficulty or mismanaging funds because she said they inherited a mismanagement. of funds and plans in that area. So my thing is, if that was true, they inherited that, and now that they are doing things in a positive way, Dr. K, to set it up. Well, there's an old saying called "the proof is in the pudding." So now, if you are now in the positive, all you got to do is bring those statistics, those numbers, and all of that to the front table, and get legislation and get involved in the judicial system, and get some people behind you because you got the proof.
And you're right, Ministry, that you have the proof. The proof is always in the pudding, but that's the sad part that we that's the miseducation part that we get into. We're not understanding what type of system we're in. When we understand that first, then we can say, all right, we can go back and forth in words if we need to, but I understand in my mind what type of system this is, and I have to maneuver strategically because they're going to play games. So we're in a system, of course, what they call would be a simple system of domination, which what leads to the term white supremacy and racism, being that all of a sudden now you're looking to remove our charter based on a technicality that somebody that you may have had in office in the first place. Now, this town, Ministry, again, dominantly Black town, but we don't know who. We have to research and see who was the politics beforehand.
Right.
And those politics, the previous administration, and then all of a sudden now, a turn of tides of Ford saying, well, we're going to move into the area to bring an economic boom to this area. And then the governor gets involved because, for the comptroller to come down, that means the governor's office is involved. So now we have to look at the people in Tennessee as a whole have to pay attention to who they go and vote for. See how this is all coming about?
Yeah.
Who did they put in office?
They understand now.
Yeah.
But Dr. K, can you explain the term charter for our listeners?
So the term
they've
charter.
been asked to give up charter. Yeah.
So the charter in itself is more or less stated that you are. It takes a number of people. We'll just say like me and you starting an organization, and we're in Illinois, right? So we pick a unincorporated area of land, and we start to, that's our charter comes in. The charter is the paperwork, meaning that, okay, what type of charter are we looking to have? Meaning, are we going to have in municipalities in this town? What we're going to have church, stores, all of that, all of that comes into play. So all of that has to be placed in this charter, meaning charter that you have been incorporated by the state in itself to be considered to be a town.
Okay. So it's like a plan for a town.
Yeah, anybody can do it. It just takes organization and organization of money and groups of people to actually do it. It can be done overnight, more or less, but it just takes mass planning. Of course, if you look at that, this is like, for example, prime example of dealing with on my family's land, which is 30 minutes from there. The mass amount of land of acreage that they have right in that little acreage of land, they could actually consider to be a corporated town if they submit the proper paperwork, which means that you're incorporated by the state of Tennessee and whatever county that you reside in. They notice you as to being a township one, or if you have enough people, a city. And when you look around, you see a lot of these different, that's why they call them townships, because it's just a town. It's a small town because it doesn't mask the number of people, enough people to be considered a city.
That's good knowledge.
I think a city, and my numbers might be off now, but I think it's maybe 5,000 more. It's somewhere to that number, to where it equates you to be considered to be a city other than a township, because most townships they don't have municipalities as reference to, for example, law enforcement. Now, I'm gonna use a proper term. They don't have the proper law enforcement, or if they do, it may be only two, or they hire in someone to maintained to be, you may have a sit-in chief or whatever you're going to call him or her. And then you may bring in part-time law enforcement officials but again, that's under the control of the president.
Yeah.
There's usually no mayor. You can call him a mayor if need be, but nine times out of 10, they call him president.
Wow. So two things just popped in my mind. Number one, when you said that there was this show called the Andy Griffin Show, and so the town was called Mayberry, and they had two law officers. So, but the point is, you brought up a image when you were talking about the land that your people own, and they can, if they wanted to, start and create their own charter, even a township or even a city. But I'm glad that you defined what charter meant, because this town is asked to give up their charter, to give up their plans, and incorporate themselves or merge themselves in with the visiting out of the neighborhood city. That is totally ridiculous. That's an atrocity. This again is the system, and I call it the white supremacy system, playing monopoly in America, because what they want to do is monopolize. I just want to give this quick definition of the word, because this is what we do. We give the definition of the word that we're using, and monopoly, which is what's going on right now in especially in this town. And listen, Dr. K, we know all over America it's the same thing. But monopoly is a situation where a single a seller in a market, in conventional economic analysis, takes over anything that opposes it. And this is what's happening right here in this situation. Anything that's opposing this white supremacy or this system, now they are being monopolized by saying, give us your charter, join with someone else, and we're going to take over. Take over.
Yep. Take over. In other words, saying that you're not capable and you are inadequate of doing the proper job.
Yeah.
And that that would equate to, that is, again, it's that's a prime example. And you see how they manipulate, the media manipulates the story, and they automatically they focus on the big thing, and they say, oh, they misappropriated the funds. Most people pay attention to that without even researching until you hear further to think that, hey, well, since they misappropriated funds, this should happen, so Ford can come in. That may as well not be the case. But again, this leads right to, when stuff like that happens, you have to start looking at who's running that state, and it's so important to understand. That's why I say, we made it so plain, clear, previous show, previous broadcast about what party, leaving the party if you're not invited. If you get invited and it's not the proper party. And then and the sad part, when I started reading a little bit more of it, the Biden administration, they've been sending Democratic people down there to, blacks now, to, oh, well, you should give it up. And that's sad.
And that is really sad.
That's sad. That, that's a game you playing. Now you get involved. I want to get involved in the game too, for somebody else because they told me to, instead of going down there and to help. Now, again, when you talk about help and justice is supposed to equate help. Right? If I'm looking to produce justice, that means I'm looking to help somebody that's in the most need. That's what that equates to. Not saying that my justice only comes through the legal system. No, justice meaning that I'm going to help someone that's in need, the right person that's in front of me, and the person that's saying, hey, I need the most help out of anybody else in the room. And this is Mason, Tennessee. Right now, they're in the most need of help. So, it's to the point of the state of Tennessee. Of course, even though we don't have the proper paperwork, Minister P, but not saying it can't be obtained. We don't have the proper paperwork to go down, but we can make calls and to see what politically, or who can we talk to down there politically to say, hey, this person needs to be removed. They always place, it's sad that they'll always place someone in office to direct the people on how things should be going, to places like, say, places like here in Illinois, Chicago. Just go pick a mayor so we can put out an agenda to get an appeasement of other people or other group. We'll say that much. Other, not even people, a group. So they
Right.
portray this person and put her out there in the front, and then she's selling something that, hey, this is what we're coming to do. What are you coming to do? Are you coming to provide justice for people justice? Somebody that needs help the most, or you just coming to say, well, no, this organization needs the help. Okay, what is this organization about?
Yes. Listen, that's what social equity and equality is all about. Bringing substances to towns and countries and places like that that need it the most. And so this is sometimes you need a fire to wake things up. Now this certainly is a fire that is waking people up in Mason, Tennessee, because I can guarantee now the minds are getting together and say, okay, we have to do something different politically. Now we have to get somebody that can bring our ideas and our purposes to front. So I can almost guarantee that town is now being fortified. So they have awoken. There's a terminology that you can sleepwalk your life through, or else you can wake up. So there's a terminology called awoke now. And so that town to me, Dr. K, is awoke.
Yeah, at this point, the alarm is ringing,
Yeah.
and the coffee is brewing. So it's pertinent that they if they're not awake, this is the time to get up now and get off your hiney or whatever. And there's no time for sitting at this point. We got to stand at this point. You got to stand and move. We have to move. We have to move on this situation. Because now here's a guy that comes out of nowhere, comes in a small town, barely 2,000 people. And tell me how much sense that makes. With all the other towns in Tennessee, that's the only one you all are focused on.
Hmm.
They got Memphis. Memphis is one of the major cities in Tennessee. Nashville. And in the surrounding areas, a town that barely has 2,000 people. You mean to tell me that that's the only town that's been reported as misappropriating funds? Help me understand that one.
No, that's not it. They see that big booming economic bonanza coming in the form of Ford and EV. So they see that and they want to control that, and
Yeah.
because that's money. Listen, greed grows. It's just that simple. The rich get richer and the poor get poor. So, but what we're seeing now, though, that we are wakening up, and we have to get in. This is why, brothers and sisters, we have to get involved politically. Look, dot your I's, cross your T's, be on point when you're playing this game of life monopoly, because it's real. We are in a real life monopoly game. And it's being played out each and every day.
Yeah.
We're going to get into it, talking about, because this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this real life game of Monopoly and how we can look at that game board that you came up with. This is a great subject, and how it equates to racism that's affecting us right now.
Yeah, right now, showing is rearing his ugly head without them saying the name of it. If we had to put the proper name that it started with, it would be Jim Crow. This is Jim Crow all over again, and it's not even being said, and it's whether it be both or either political party. They say forget the parties, we're gonna do what we want to do. This is almost like a common law tactic that's happening, and even across even outside of America. Look at this. The headlines. This is from a couple of weeks ago, and it's big as you see. Now, it's stating It says African leaders demand end to discrimination against Africans in the Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as well as I know, they were blocking a lot of our extended family, let's say, family of the African diaspora that is actually from Africa, directly from there now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, have family still there now. Blocking them from getting on the trains, on the buses. Matter of fact, it was reported a couple of weeks ago that they even paused as reference to the war to try to make the Africans get involved or get out of the country. So I understand, Minister P, that the prayer is supposed to help them, but who am I praying for? Not the Ukraine. I couldn't be if the Ukrainian people had the sense to stop and practice discrimination and racism. Let's say practice racism in the midst of a war because of somebody of a different color in your country now that has citizenship. Then I'm sorry, I can't pray for you. If anything, I'm gonna pray that you get out of my face before I have to attack you.
Well, what you pray for is against racism. You don't pray for anything that promotes racism. You pray against racism, and then you pray against evil. Listen, we're living in, it's either good or evil.
Yeah.
That's just it, you know. And so we pray against all forms of evil, and we know that there are many forms of evil out there. You know, there's racism, there's prejudice, there's economic evils, there's disparity, there's social evils. So we pray against evils. I will never stop praying against evil when it raises its ugly head all over the world. Remember, again, Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere affects justice everywhere. So yeah, that was another topic that came up, and we see it raising its ugly head.
Yeah.
Racism
Yeah.
over there, even in Ukraine, a place that's being bombed and bombarded. But my thing is this, you know, if America can give $80 million for humanitarian cause over there, well, give some of those $80 million to a humanitarian cause right there in Mason, Tennessee.
Right. It's more than
Other
that,
place.
Minister P. It's 13.6 billion.
Mm-hmm. See, use
With
some
a
of those
B.
funds.
You're right.
I remember I was talking with my wife the other day. She said, "Where's he getting all this money from?" Where is he getting
Right.
this money from?
Where is this money coming from?
All of a sudden.
All of a sudden now you can come up with $13 billion. That's a lot of money.
He's playing Monopoly in America.
That's weird. That's what our topic is about: playing Monopoly in America, and we're in the game, and we're losing.
Okay.
You know, everybody's supposed to real quick, but everybody's supposed to be able to cross goal, right?
Absolutely.
You know, when you go around that board, it's always a little trip up. You either gonna land on somebody's property, pay some tax. You may even have a blessing moment now and be able to afford to buy a little piece of property, but you always got to be paying a
little piece.
Little piece of property, and you always got to pay somebody. And look, you have to keep from going to jail.
Yeah.
In doing it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
See, that's the thing. And this is what I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
This game. This is a great subject because it teaches, I call it life monopoly, because it teaches what life is all about. And this is real. Now listen, imagine going around the Monopoly board. Here we are, brothers and sisters, viewers and friends and supporters. We're playing the game of life, Monopoly, right now. So here it is. Here's an analogy right quick. Imagine going around the Monopoly board, listen, 400 times. 400? Does that number ring a bell? 16, 19? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine going around the Monopoly board 400 times, helping someone else play the game and helping them build their wealth. Now, you aren't allowed to, here goes the game. You aren't allowed to have any money. You're not allowed to have any property. You're not allowed to have any rights at all. Now, check this out, Dr. K. Then all of a sudden, in 1863, you are released from helping them play Monopoly. You're released to play your own game of Monopoly now. But here it is. You don't have no wealth. You don't have no inheritance. You don't have no generational transference of legacy. You have nothing, nothing, nothing. But the Black people are resilient in America, right? We are resilient. So in 1921, what happened? Tulsa. I mean, we built Tulsa in Rosewood. And in the fullness of time, Dr. K, we were able to build our own economic wealth.
Yeah.
Because remember, these are the Black Wall Streets. These were the models.
You know what? One of the first ones, Minister P, out of those that created Tulsa.
Yeah.
It was in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, or Durham. Around in Durham, most of the people attracted to Durham because, you know, most of the slave trade in this aspect happened around the South Carolina. You know, the coastal thing was happening off the coast, so the slave trade was going from New Orleans up, from down to South Carolina, from South Carolina down to New Orleans. That was that slave tradement of that path of slave ship going back and forth with slaves, of course, traveling through the land, but they didn't know the land well. That's why these ships on the coast going back and forth up and down, you know, South Carolina, Florida, New Orleans, Florida, South Carolina. Because, you know, I'm just using those three land masses because they, you know, from South Carolina, you hit Florida. From Florida, you can hit New Orleans. So if you look at the map, so you're right, that whole disparity is a disparity, but I'll just throw that in there. They don't mention that, you know, Durham, North Carolina was one of the first, and a lot of those people when they attacked Durham, of course, those people trickled to go to Tulsa and create that conglomerate as it was. But
Well,
go ahead
listen,
and continue, Mr. P.
we are glad that you brought in. See, this is the thing about Dr. K, brothers and sisters. He knows history, and so we're glad that he dropped that nugget. Now, let's take that information that he gave us and do some research on that particular land and that particular situation. We already know about Tulsa and Rosewood. Let's talk about Durham now. Let's build this legacy up. So we thank you for dropping that. So here we are. We're finally allowed to get off of the game of Monopoly and play our own game, Dr. K. You know, we built their wealth. So we started building our own wealth with Durham and Tulsa and Rosewood. And we were self-sufficient. We owned our own stores. We owned our own property. Guess what happened next? The white supremacist system said, oh no, you're getting too strong economically. You're coming up with equality with us now. So what did they do? They bombarded, they bombed it, they burned it to the ground. They burned it to the ground. When we were able to play the game of Monopoly life, when we were able to play by the rules, and we did all of that, guess what they did? Bombed us. And this was done to promote white supremacy. And here it is again. White supremacy is still the issue today. It's not our issue. It's their issue because they have the control. They're promoting it. They have to stop it and put it in check.
We just reactionary.
That's it.
That would be somebody.
Ourselves.
Yeah, you're right. So I, you know, that goes into what we're talking about, Ministry bombing. And, you know, that you see how that's what I say we have to be careful in this trick bag of games that they play in politics and in law. And they create this hate crime law, right? So if somebody does something to us and we retaliate, what does that do? That puts us on record as committing a hate crime. Only in defending ourselves now, but it doesn't show that we are defending ourselves. Now take a look at this. As far as research. So if we tend to defend ourselves, if someone to tend to defend themselves, and we talk and we mention South Carolina, look what they're doing in South Carolina. South Carolina institute firing squad executions. South Carolina has the means to facilitate executions by firing squad. This is what they're showing. So if you wrongfully accused, now this execution chamber is in Utah, but ain't no telling what type of tactic that they would have in South Carolina. You know, South Carolina has its ugly history. You know, Ministry on the previous platform, we talked about South Carolina and mentioned some of the a lot of history. There's a lot of history in South Carolina. That's reference to, you know, to our church, to our church in itself. It shouldn't, to me, it shouldn't exist as reference to, we have to say our church. It should be the church. You know, we're allowed to put the word all nations on the billboard, but when you go inside, all nations is not attending. So, not saying that they're not welcome, but all nations don't attend. Especially when this all nations sits in an area to where there's been no restitution, there's been no upkeep, there's been no push to elevate the people in that area. So here you put up all nations, and then all nations ain't coming to that area.
Well,
So
that's because of the type of monopoly that has been played
yeah,
in America. You know, so but getting back to this game of life, monopoly that we have been playing, especially for 400 years, we have not been able to play by the rules, our own rules. We were playing for someone else. I just imagine that, man. Listen, generation after generation, that the white population has had incentives. They have had generational wealth. They have had prosperity. And we have none. And now we're asked to play the game of life, monopoly, without all of those 400 years behind the starting point. So we have nothing. Why not give us a reciprocity? Why not restore equality and give things back to the Black community that was so brutalized? Listen, you got to realize the Black community was brutalized for years and years and years, both
that's the
in
bullying.
toll of death, both in economic, both in criminal injustice system, you know, and so the amount of atrocities that we have over the years, any other people would have said, look, I want revenge. All we're saying is we want equality.
Yeah.
We want equity.
And that goes to the trauma that's been put on us by these atrocities. You would think that someone who stood for and wanted justice across the board, and then he's assassinated in his process of trying to get justice for so many. Now, Minister P, so many. There's been, you know, we can run off the names. You know, one of the most favorable would be Dr. King, and then you go on down the line of people who are reactionary, not just out here just for, oh, woe is me and this. No, they were they were put out there today. They said, look, I'm going to lay my life on the line, whether somebody else pushed them out there or funded them, what have you. Their life still was put on the line. You know, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, so many, Fred Hampton, you know, so many people looking to bring a point of universal man and universal woman justice now, meaning that there's a people that needs help. And this country that they call America, that they consider the country of America, not this land, the country in itself, the term America has a charter in itself. And we just talked about that charter, right? America is a charter. And you know who controls the lease?
Tell us, kind sir.
The Queen. Because it gives us the history right in school, right? The 13 colonies wanted to break away from Great Britain. So Great Britain actually the deal is being made that said, okay, go formulate your states, but we still have control. So meanwhile, we'll put in a place to where you have to have a charter where you do what? Elect presidents, right? They don't have control. All they doing is running in-house. They're just the face, but Great Britain has the control. And that's for anybody to research and go out there and find out what's the real. And really, Great Britain just has control of the charter. They don't own America, the land. This is the reason why they attack us so much, because they know that the deep-rooted history of who was here first wasn't Native Americans. We are the Native Americans. That's us. But they don't, they come with all these different type of quantum blood laws. They play these games with us. As reference to, I was trying to connect with our original. That's why they give us all this. They infiltrate knuckleheads like Messy Jesse, people like that. If they put knuckleheads out there to give us these terms, African American, who is that? Anybody can be that. For the most part, for the diaspora, most of everybody come from that region, right? So if I'm saying that, but we can't make any vast connections with reference to having a direct connect. I don't know anyone there in Africa that is my direct family at all. If somebody asks you, Ministry, how do you relate to most of you usually say, most of my people come from the South, right?
Yeah.
You say that, right? Most of my people come from the South. So that means you have no other connection. Yeah, you can do a deep rooted, but that's going to take time and energy and money to go back that far. So I can't relate to someone directly. That's reference to you see some of our brothers and sisters.
But
it can be done.
But
that's time wasted. But to get right to the point, right at hand, right now, we can do that later. But we're struggling now. If we want to go deep rooted and say, hey, I need to go back 500 years. That's a lot of digging that you got to do.
It is, but it can be done, and and that's all again playing Monopoly in America, where we are up to date. And see, we haven't even got to the part of the Monopoly of Life game, Dr. K, where you can get a get out of jail card free. Remember that aspect of the game. So now we're going to talk about the correctional system and the disparity that's in that when we're playing Monopoly in America. How many blacks are in jail and penalized, and compare that to the other race? It's disproportional. And so and the ones the ones that do get in there from the other race, they can get a get out of jail card free. Us, we're
Look,
stuck.
the two places that they go to get out of jail for free.
Where's that?
They either take a chance, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or they can go to the community chest.
Community chest. There it is. And that's all in that built-in inheritance that they have acquired over the years, the 400 years, while we were helping them build their wealth in the game of their life Monopoly. Now we're able to play our game, but we're so far behind. We don't have a community chest.
Nope.
We almost don't have a chance.
Nope. And look, here's the third option that you can get to get out of jail in Monopoly. You gotta have the money. You can pay your way out of jail. You can pay your way out of jail. Most people don't know that. You can pay your way. You can almost, sadly enough now, which is how you got to look at, and that goes back into the mental state of society, right? Mr. P, you can almost get away with murder if you got the money.
That's true. There have been
if you have the money.
Yes, been situations of that happening, and we know it. And we know it. It has happened. And so we're looking at all of these brothers and sisters. We bring some humor to it, but we want us to look at the game of Monopoly in real life terms. We don't have the wealth that they acquired. We didn't start the game until 400 years later. We don't have the generational assets. We get involved in jail time, and so we don't accrue money there. But however, watch this, Dr. K. When we do acquire property, it is the cheapest and poorest property there. What's the poorest one on Monopoly? Is it Ball Stick or
Yeah, you have Baltic Avenue.
Baltic Avenue?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
one of the cheapest forms that you can buy. That's what we're able to buy. Why? Because the monopolized system of white supremacy has already acquired the wealthy.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as you
The
go around
properties.
before you can
You can't even go up there. You can't even drive through that land.
You notice though on the board how the board is set up. Broadway. And
Broadway,
we'll say boardwalk. It's boardwalk, not Broadway, but boardwalk itself is the area. Even if you don't have a house or hotels, the rent is high. And you see, if you look at the board and lay the board down properly, you look at the board and lay it down properly, you can almost, depending on what direction you're in, you got east or west, north or south, depending on how you want to play it and twist this board. And look, it's how fitting is it to say, well, hey, you got to spend money to pass through this area.
Exactly.
But if you get past go, you'll collect $200. But we'll get that $200 before you get back around to see that ugly cycle. It's an ugly cycle. It's cheap. Look, it's sad that the cheap property comes first, and then you got to pay taxes on everything. Now say, hey, well, you got that property for cheap, but now you got to pay a hefty tax. So by the time you get to and paid all your money through here, once you get down to boardwalk, you'll be broke. So you'll never make it. To let you know that the railroad system is privately owned, giving you to get people. This is the simple game of it. This is the real in life. People think that, because they put the city of whatever, we'll just say the city of whatever on front of the water bill or the railroad system. No, these are privately owned institutions, meaning that they have been placed in privately owned situations to where somebody privately control and say what needs to happen. The city has just said, well, this stuff runs through this, what is chartered to be a city. But these conglomerates are controlled. The city is just the front. The back end, there's a board that makes decisions on how you're going to pay your water bill, your garbage tax. It gets past politics. Politics just gets involved with reference to, well, who's going to be sitting in that seat to say, well, since I'm in place as the mayor, I'll look over that, or I'll give them a break. But there's a board, there's a conglomerate board that you don't even see, that owns that controls it and owns the water system, garbage system, the train system, the electrical system. These are privately owned companies. Look at ComEd. That's not a city ran. Just like on Monopoly, somebody personally can own this. So when you land on it, what you got to do, you got to roll the dice if you own all of them.
And these are legal monopolies. Now, bear in mind, listen, you called it out. The most expensive places on Monopoly game of life is Boardwalk, Park Place, Pennsylvania Avenue, North Carolina Avenue, and Pacific Avenue. Those are the ones. But listen, it comes way down here to the cheapest ones. You got Mediterranean Avenue, Baltic Avenue, Oriental Avenue, and Connecticut and Vermont Avenue. Those are what we are able to own and things of that nature when we do get a chance to own it. I'm talking about the majority. There are some breakthrough cases. We all understand that. But we're talking about the norm of people. You're not just talking about a few that have made it. That's why I don't like when a few people, blacks, have made it and they become, well, it's all right. No, it's not all right, because you have made it. That's not you. You're 1%. So we were looking at the larger group of people playing this game of Monopoly, and so this is a wake up call for us all, brothers and sisters, to wake up, get involved politically, know your rules and your games of life in your area, in your state, because sometimes they differ, and play those games and those rules.
Know how to play the game. And as we say in the point of Monopoly, even though we don't have Individually, we may not have a whole lot as reference to when it talks about money. We have it, but we'll have it in abundance if we pull our resources. Pull our resources, meaning that if I pull my resources and I'm looking to get a candidate in office, we can pay for that individual. That means if I pay into your campaign, surely you're going to get my vote because I paid now, Minister P. I paid, I afforded to pay. If I came to you and say, hey, I'm running for office, but I need your support. They're not talking about in the voting booth. That means that I need monetarily, I need your support because running a campaign is not just someone say, well, I got 500 people say they're going to vote for me. That's not going to do it. They need your financial. That's why, on this show, I'll promote it still. But for the ones who are listening and the ones who may catch the recap of this, I'll put it out there. As reference, I'm not sure how often people use Cash App, but KTSE Media, all one word, Cash App, to help us to be able to afford to broaden because once we come bigger, and I'm saying I would want to push I never will push anybody away, but I don't want all the naysayers or the people who didn't help out to now they want to come to the forefront and say, oh, I can be on your platform now.
Right.
I said, well, no, I needed you. I needed you when I didn't have a full mass platform, when I was a small person and didn't have that much bigger and didn't have that much of an audience, had a small audience. But now all of a sudden I got a huge audience and I'm having a major effect on the people and getting out here and actually doing the work. Because talking is one thing and actually doing the work. We are doing the work, ladies and gentlemen. We're not just talking. We just didn't wake up and say, well, I got a platform. Let me just go say something. No, we're actually doing the leg work to make a difference. We have to start. If we have to start small, that's where we're starting until we can grow big. Now, I think big. I don't think small. I don't say I can start small. I mean, I have to start small because I have small, but I think big. I think on a large scale.
That's it.
So thinking on that large scale equates to say, well, if I have to move a politician out the way or go around him or her, I will do so. I abide by the rules as much as I can, as much as they allow me to. But if I had to, I will go to length. I would just say that and leave it at that. I will go to length. So going to length meaning that, hey, I'll put something out there to get to where I need to go. And if I have to step on somebody, I hate to step on our people, but sometimes our people need to be stepped on because we're still sleeping. So on people, we got to wake up. Yeah, get out of this deep-rooted sleep that we're in. Because as you can see, we're still getting kicked in the rear end. We may not be getting water hose, but we getting kicked other ways. And our platform showing about playing Monopoly in America, and we're seeing a town now that is getting kicked. And if it's not getting kicked, show me what type of abuse that they're taking. They give a handshake. I mean, let's be clear. What type of handshake is that? And you kicking me at the same time. So we got to understand, people, what we're into and what we're dealing with and where we're going and how we're doing things and pay attention to detail. So that way, when we get into we're already in the game Monopoly, but we become real contenders in this game. And then we have a full seat at the table, not a half of a seat, not 1/3 of a seat, not a smidget of a seat, a whole seat at the table. So I invite you all to catch this platform so that way we can bring educational process and research and more think tanks. That way we can come up with solutions to the problems that we're having, like we discussed as reference to Mason, Tennessee, and being in this game of Monopoly. Of course, our show airs on Saturdays. Every Saturdays, if we're live, you can catch us either live on YouTube, or you can catch us live at our station, WKTSE Radio station, which is our app will be coming soon. Having an app being developed, and you'll be able to download the app and tune in as you need to anytime. And 24 hours. The station is 24 hours a day. But you can tune into this platform that we're on. We're on the station of WKTSE, and my broadcast on WKTSE is Let's Look at This I am your host, Dr. K. My co-host, Minister P. We air on Saturdays at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And on Sundays, Minister P brings that spiritual message that is deeply rooted and deeply needed sometimes to get our people moving in the right direction. He airs, Love at Work Ministry airs on Sundays at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And he's bringing a vibrant message. I adhered you to get up to be able to hear that message, as he on this platform bringing a message as well. You see, our messages go hand in hand, and they relate to our lives in different ways, and in almost in similar ways. It goes hand in hand as reference to how we maneuver in this society. So definitely keep and look for more platforms to come with to educate on strategies of dealing with debt, dealing with and turning debt into wealth. Most people say, "Oh, I'm debt free." I said, "Well, how debt free are you? If you have a property that is still paying taxes on it, that's still a debt. That's still a debt owed. You're never going to be debt free." So that's why I say you may have to come with other strategies to use debt in a better term to say, well, debt is wealth. So we have to. Those are just different strategies that we're going to start throwing out there. And if I invite you to tune in and start with, say you've seen it scroll across the screen. Join us live if you have anything that you want to ask, say, any questions. We look to invite you. I know it's early, and that tends to deter people, Minister B, from being able to get up and get on a platform that early.
The
but
early bird gets the worm. Come on now.
Thank you.
Come on now.
Thank you. The early bird gets the worm. The earlier you get up, the more you can get them juices flowing of what you need to be doing through the day besides sleeping. Yeah, that knowledge. And so we got to get out of that high school mentality. Come on. That's reference to, well, I'm getting up at 2:00 in the evening.
What?
You got people you got grown, supposed to be grown folks, Minister P, sleeping. I mean, it's one thing to sleep in and say, "Oh, I'm on vacation. I had a long week." But sometimes you gotta sacrifice that and get up and start to say, "Well, what am I doing on Saturday? Am I gonna sleep in until?" Yeah, you give yourself that cushion sometimes. You do. We all do give ourselves that cushion, but you can't be in the bed 24/7 every day of your life until, well, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't get up till 1, 2 o'clock. You got to prioritize your life. Get in the game to play it properly. That way we can be the monopoly. We can be the monopoly that's being said out here, and stop. We be our own monopoly. That way we're not somebody else's monopoly piece. We create our own pieces.
Playing our game.
Start playing our game. So that's been our time, and I've enjoyed this platform. I've been enjoying this platform. We try to come to you live as much as we can, as much as our schedules allow us to, so that we can educate our people properly and get the proper messages out there. So because mass media is not going to do it, as you saw with Mason, Tennessee, they're going to convolute the message a lot until you can get the real nook and cranny of it. Most of our people take it verbatim for what they say and just run with it instead of doing their deeper aspect of research. Even though, again, they have the resources to go out there and get the media. That's what we're trying to get. So when it's something that happens in our community, we're able to be right there on the spot to get the real message and bring out the real truth instead of tweaking it as they do.
Absolutely. And Dr. K, so listen, this is amazing. We're approaching our first year.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
That milestone is coming up soon, and so we're proud of what we have done on every station and every broadcast. Let's look at this, Love at Work Ministry, and we're just simply here to wake up the minds that are asleep, and edify, empower, and encourage all of us to become the best that we can be. As I always like to say, Romans 12:18 says, "If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men." And that's our goal.
There it is. Gotta live amongst peace. and not war, because of course we know war. You have to come with counter war, so that way you don't have an all-out war. So we have to abide by that. That scripture goes hand. You can see it plays into real life. That's the whole annotation of it, plays into real life. And I think in my theory of it, Minister Pete, that's what we miss and lack. And when you talk about the scripture, that the lack of knowledge is why our people perish. And this doesn't equate to just the Bible. I mean, we're living in real life now. So sometimes we have to say, okay, well, I read the Bible. Now, how do I apply? Or whether it be the Quran, how do I apply this to equate to real life? Because I'm in the real now. You know, I read the scripture and I understand that it's there, but now how do I apply that? And how am I dealing in life with it? Or how am I dealing in life with what has been set with our code of ethics that we put out there? Because that can be put in scripture too. Because we're minister be, we're not always going to be here. Right? So what do we leave behind as a legacy?
Exactly. Wisdom. And that's where the wisdom comes in, how to apply it. You said it correctly. How to apply that knowledge now. Now we got knowledge. This is what you do. This is what your platform is about. What mine is about. Now apply that knowledge that we gave you and use it in everyday life to promote our community.
It's been our time, ladies and gentlemen. We went a couple minutes over, but hey, we do here. So I salute you all, and hopefully to see you next week. Everybody have the rest of your good day and weekend, and we're out.
Peace out.